Hey, this is Greg Miller from KindaFunny.com, and you're listening to Geeks with Wives and Capes. Now, do the wives have capes?
And here we go.
From the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, welcome to GWW Radio presents The Collection Agency, the official collecting podcast of geekswithwives.com. I, of course, am Brad Bell, and joining me today, as always, for our monthly collecting pod is...
Barbecue 17, also known as Jerry Reed from actionfigurebarbecue.com.
Jerry, thanks for joining me today to talk the thing we love maybe most in the world besides our wives and besides God, and that is action figures. And I'm glad to see that Jerry's already in the Halloween spirit with his pumpkin profile picture. Hopefully we're going to have a camera up for Jerry real soon, but it doesn't matter because the commentary he provides on collecting, you don't even need to see the man's beautiful face.
That's what I look like, though. I really have a pumpkin on my head all the time.
That's exactly right. He wants to stay in that Halloween spirit. So
every day is Halloween.
In the Reed household, actually, Jerry, tell the listeners when you start Halloween at your house.
August 1st?
August 1st through like the first week of November, right, Jerry?
Because there's pre-Halloween. So that's August 1st through the end of August. And then the main festivities really start in September, goes all the way through October. And then on November 1st, we start Re-Halloween, which goes 1 week into November. And then, of course, there's a new holiday that me and my friend Andrew have started, which is Halloween in May. So May 31st is also Halloween.
Yeah, in case you didn't tell, we love Halloween, so you can imagine what our October topic might look like. So stay tuned.
It's going to be good
for that.
stuff.
Absolutely. So today's topic is going to be exclusivity and limited editions. We're going to do it across collecting, from video gaming to high-end collectibles, to your retail collectibles, to convention exclusives. We're going to discuss it, and we're going to discuss the market for those things. But before,
we're starting with a scary topic already.
Yeah, get you in the Halloween spirit, all right.
Collector exclusives are terrifying.
Limited editions terrify me, for sure. So we're going to get there as our main topic. Before we get into our main topic, we always start out with what we have been checking out in the world of collecting.
Checklist? Check. Double checking of checklists? Check.
So since the last time we spoke, I've actually gotten into, Funko, who does the reaction figures, and they do Pop, those little vinyl guys.
Oh, yeah, the most popular figures in the world.
Every property known to man. Well, they have a series out of Garbage Pail Kids, based on the old the Topps trading cards that are kind of like, scary, crazy, messed up versions of the Cabbage Patch Kids. Although you can't say they look like the Cabbage Patch Kids because Cabbage Patch sued Garbage Pail Kids back in the 80s. Anyways, I found one of them. They're sold blind boxed, and I bought one of them at Toys R Us, and it was like a little zombie kid called Dead Ted. And I thought it was pretty rad, so I ended up buying a whole box of them. And so I've got the whole series sitting on my shelf right now.
And who can forget, like, the Garbage Pail Kid phenomenon? I would describe what we're living in as the age of nostalgia. And why not bring Garbage Pail Kids back? It just seems to make perfect sense.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. They're nice little figures. One thing I really like about them, which will tie into our thing later, is that, they're sold in blind boxes. You don't know which one you're getting. And a lot of time with Funko's other things, like their mystery minis, you'll have some figures that are like really rare. That'll be like 1 in 144. So you'd have to buy, multiple cases of figures just to have the chance of finding one. And these guys are sold evenly. So you buy a case, you know you're getting one of each figure, which is really nice. It's why I felt the confidence of buying a case and actually collecting them. If they were random, I would probably have bought one, and that was it. So
wow, they Funko really looked out for the collector there. We need to kind of give them a round of applause for that.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Thank you, Funko.
I would not have bought any more after the first one if they would have been sold randomly.
For sure. So, all right, Jerry. So, good recommendation for this month. The Garbage Pail Kid blind bags from Funko. Let's see.
They're
what
fun.
about?
They're spooky. They're gross.
They're Garbage Pail Kids. That's what they're supposed to be. Did you collect those cards when you were a kid? I think that was like right before my time. I think that was a big mid 80s type thing.
Oh, yeah. Some of the original ones were probably like 84, 85. And I mean, I would have been pretty young when they came out, but I had some of the cards that somebody got me. I'm pretty sure I didn't buy them, but somebody bought them for me. Maybe got them secondhand at a yard sale. And I had some of the little Garbage Pail Kids minis that were kind of like the muscle figures. They were like really small.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, little rubbery guys. I still have a couple of them sitting around somewhere too.
That's awesome. I know that a lot of people were big into scalping those back in the day because they were rare.
Schools banned them and everything, so they thought they were too gross, too distracting. You know, schools always hate what the kids like.
Well, that was a good choice for what you've been checking out because it kind of goes.
Ask, do you remember Savage Mondo Blitzers?
No, Mondo Blitzers must have been before my time.
No, they would have been they were the early 90s. They were like little guys on skateboards. And they had really gross names, but they also were kind of like Garbage Pail Kids. They made headlines because, you know, the schools didn't like them because they were so gross and, you know, like evil babies and, you know, weird stuff like that. They had names like they're like different groups. Like there was like the Chunk Blowers, the Butt Kickers, the Sewer Surfers. They were pretty cool, but pretty sure my mom didn't really let me buy them, but I ended up with them somehow. So probably when my grandparents bought them, not knowing what they were.
I didn't get into those. I was never sports cards, Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, any type of cards. I was never really big into.
These were actual they weren't die-cast metal themselves, but they were like little skateboarders. Like you bought them in a set, you could actually roll them. They were like
even
those skateboards.
Even those smaller figures though, like I had Mighty Max. I really liked those playsets.
I have a ton of Mighty Max. I started recollecting them a couple years ago.
Yeah, I remember. Those were awesome because you would have the little mini ones like at McDonald's and Happy Meals, and then you would have the bigger, but still in all intents and purposes, small little play sets that you would get at Walmart or KB Toys or whatever.
Mighty Max is, I cannot understand. And more companies need to go and embrace the minifigures again like that, or micro figures with Micro Max, because with Mighty Max, because those things are so cool. Next time, the first time that I'm on here that you can see my face, when we get my webcam issues worked out, I have a Mighty Max hat, the red hat with the yellow M on it.
You have to wear that.
Yeah, I'm gonna wear it. It was actually like an order, a mail away item from back in the day.
Wow, that's awesome.
Still own it. Yep.
See, I can never wear any of those older hats. I'm not a hat guy because I have a melon head. Like I cannot wear sports hats, any type of hats. I cannot wear at all. So that's a personal problem. But I have that pumpkin head that Jerry actually has on his head. It's about the size of my regular one. Jerry, I got something cool that I finally got done this month. I was able to get and I talked about it. It was my collecting goal from last month, and I met it. I was able to get my Jeff Proctor 1990 TMNT Mondo poster signed by Kevin Eastman, framed. And, this isn't a revelation. I've had a lot of Mondo posters framed. I probably had a dozen or so frames, so much so that I know the framing department at my local Hobby Lobby.
Nice.
Kind of on a first name basis. So shout out to Cherie, Tammy, and Scott, who have framed all these beautiful posters around me. Turn my webcam a little bit there. You can actually see the TMNT Mondo poster frame there if anybody's watching live. So that kind of brought me. I don't want to talk about Mondo posters. In my checking out, I thought this may lead to a little mini discussion separate from our main topic. Besides your friends like you and I, you talk about collecting with, is there anybody that you kind of had a bond with over collecting? For example, maybe a local comic book shop owner that you went into there every week. I mean, at the end of the day, it's commerce, but you still look forward to having those interactions. Jerry, is there anything off the top of your head like that you've experienced, like I have with the people at Hobby Lobby?
I don't know that anybody has a relationship like you have with the people at Hobby Lobby, but
that's right. It's one of a kind, Jerry.
All right, so this is a great story. So at one point when I was a kid, this is right after I got into Star Wars. So this would have been when the movies got released on VHS in the mid-90s.
The face covers.
Yeah, the face covers, the THX editions.
The ones that were the last home video release of the original cuts.
Yeah, the original cuts, basically. So anyways, my family and I had moved to Memphis. And Memphis, Tennessee, or outside Memphis, Tennessee. And I was into Star Wars collecting, and it was like nobody else that I knew of was into collecting or anything like that, action figures. So no joke, we stop at a BP station near our house to get gas, go inside, and this is like this little BP station out in the middle of nowhere. The dude that runs it, not only do they have a gas station and a little garage in there, but the guy has basically a collectible shop in this BP station.
Wow.
So I always wanted to go and hang out at this BP station and stuff. And so like I go up there and, buy stuff and trade stuff with this guy and like talk to this guy at the BP station all the time. When I was in 6th grade, I wanted to hang out at the BP station because that was where all the collectible stuff was. It was awesome. I wonder if it's still there. Like, I'd love to like run into the guy that used to run this toy shop out of a BP station. I mean,
wow,
it was just the coolest thing in the world. I mean, think about,
and like, you're a kid too. You're a kid.
Oh yeah. I mean, think about like walking. I mean, think about like you go to get your taxes done at H&R Block, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, and I also sell Sideshow statues and hot toys," and you're like, "What the crap?" It was amazing. Best thing ever.
That reminds me of
best gas station ever.
I bet. That reminds me of another kind of story like that at our local KB Toys, Jerry, that you'll be familiar with because of where you live now. That KB Toys, was that gone when you moved to where you're at now?
Pretty confident KB Toys was gone before I moved here, yeah.
Okay, because it was a while ago they shut down.
The Cleveland Mall?
Yeah, at the good old Cleveland Mall. We would go in there all the time, my brother and I. My mom went up there when we were kids for a couple of years. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she would go up there and like walk for fitness. So my brother and I we would go in the toy store and look at Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles and WWF and WCW wrestling figures, right? And there was a guy that we got to know. He was probably, looking back, he was probably high school, maybe a junior or senior. He couldn't have been any older than a freshman in college. But when you're a kid and you see a high schooler, they might as well be an adult, right?
Might as well.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're, 10 or so, 10, 12, less than that, even more so. And then it's funny when you get in high school, you realize, wow, that guy wasn't really that old or girl or whatever. But I digress. His name was Casey. And we would always go up, and it's not Casey Walsh, the editor-in-chief at geekswithwives.com, I promise. And we'd always go in there and buy stuff, buy their overpriced toys. And we had talked to Casey because he was really into kind of nerd culture, geek culture. And this is back before that stuff's really cool. I mean, look, he's a high schooler talking about it with 10 or 12-year-old kids.
Working at a KB Toys in a mall.
Working at a KB Toys in a mall, right?
That's as real as it gets.
That's as real as it gets. So, like, I would go in there and talk to Casey for like 30, 45 minutes, and we'd talk about Star Wars or whatever. So, it was the Christmas the PS2 came out. And, Jerry, if you remember, they were really hard to get that Christmas. They came in that little blue box, and it was just...
Yeah, they were tough.
They were impossible. Tough. And what happened was my mom could not find it anywhere, and neither could Santa Claus. And Casey, we're walking by one day, and Casey knows I want one of these, right? This has to be a week before Christmas. And my brother's not with me, and my brother still believes in the jolly red guy at this point. So it's a good thing he wasn't with me. So what happens is I was getting, since I couldn't find a PS2, Jerry, you know how I supplemented that?
How?
I had a Dreamcast. This is what I was supposed to get, a Dreamcast and a DVD player. So if you remember, PS2 was the first time we had a DVD player in a console. So I was like kind of... Exactly. And, you know, Dreamcast never compared to PS2, although Dreamcast had its benefits.
It had some great games, but go on.
Yeah, but anyway. So Casey says, I held one of these for you. I knew you wanted one. It's like me and my mom and my grandmother up there.
Casey was trying to hit on your mom. That's what
he may have been.
He probably was.
But hey, I'm trying to keep this story in a PG or even G-rated light. So I remember, you remember how overpriced KB Toys was, right, Jerry?
Yeah, KB Toys was overpriced.
So we paid, well, my mom paid. I remember this. This was my brother and I's Christmas. $500 for a PS2 bundle that came with 3 games. It was one. It may have come with an extra controller, but I remember getting Madden and 2 other games, and that was all I got for Christmas because, I mean, that was a big gift. But had I not formed that bond with Casey at KB Toys in the 1990s, Jerry, I would not have been able to get that PlayStation 2. So treat the people who provide your collectibles, whether it's your comic book shop owners or whoever, treat them right. All right. So that's kind of a
life lesson.
That's a good life lesson. I mean, you want to treat everybody right, but if you know somebody can help you out in the future, you want to treat them extra special, right?
Absolutely.
So that's it for me checking out, and I love those guys at Hobby Lobby. Jerry, anything in particular that you want to mention that you checked out?
Hey, I think last time when we talked about San Diego Comic-Con stuff, I talked about the Masters of the Universe muscle figures that I wanted from Super 7. Well, Super 7 actually put those up on their website for $6 a piece for a pack, $6 a pack. So I was able to order all 4 sets of them for, $24, which was way cheaper than anybody was selling them on eBay for. And not only did I get the set of them, but Super 7 actually threw in the little Comic-Con exclusive purple Skeletor figure and the little coin that you use to claim your Skeletor at Comic-Con. So
that's
that was
awesome.
pretty sweet. I was really pleased with them. So they're sitting on my shelf. They're awesome. They're really neat.
Where did you end up picking those up at?
Super 7's website. They put them up on their website.
Oh, you got it straight from the website. Okay.
Yeah, they were selling them right on the website. No scalper, no scalping going on there.
That's rare.
Yeah, nice stuff.
All right, so that's going to do it for what we've been checking out this month. Jerry, let's go ahead and get into the news items for the month.
All right,
so let's start with what seems to define this podcast since we've launched over the past 2 months. And that is Star Wars. I mean, we do have another Star Wars film coming out, and this is a collecting podcast. So what can you say? Episode 7 toys, Jerry. I think you probably saw this. I know I tweeted a few pictures out, have been prematurely released in a lot of locations. Did you see any of these?
Yeah, actually, I bet I can one-up you here.
Don't tell me you found some in stores.
I did not yet.
Okay, I was about to say.
3 hours ago on Idle Hands Blogspot, somebody is showing 4 of the figures from the movie, the actual figures themselves, still in the package.
Oh, so they've gotten their which ones? The 6-inch, the 3 3/4, or what?
These are the 3 3/4 inch. These are they look like they have 5 points of articulation, so these are the lower end. The figures look great, but they definitely don't have that much articulation. But they have Captain Phasma, Kylo Ren, who's the main bad guy with the 3-pronged lightsaber. There is Finn in a jacket, so John Boyega's character, and a flamethrower trooper. And on the back of the package, there's a image of somebody called Constable Zuvio. So don't know who that is. He looks like an alien of some kind, wearing a mask.
How did the figures look overall? Like packaging and
the packaging is really nice. It's a very like a red and black motif with Kylo Ren's helmet in the background holding a red lightsaber. It just says Star Wars The Force Awakens at the top. The packages themselves actually look like they have unique character art on the side. So
cool.
Yeah, Captain Phasma has like a picture of, a really nice drawn image of, Captain Phasma running. The same with, Finn and the flamethrower trooper. And they actually have pieces so you can build some sort of weapon. I'm not sure what exactly you're building. It looks like some kind of weird backpack, but there's some kind of item that when you combine them together, you build some little backpack for buying 4 figures.
That's a proton pack, Jerry. That's what they're building. Star Wars crossover with Ghostbusters coming 2020.
It reminds me of the backpack. When you see the picture on the back, it reminds me of something you would see on like a Batman figure, like some kind of weird giant saw blade or, some kind of rocket launcher that makes no sense.
Those are my favorite ones, the ones that make no sense.
Yeah, the figures look nice though. It's very clear that they are very limited in their articulation, but they're nice looking figures.
Now, does Idle Hands say where they came across these, or did they not want to point that out?
Some of them have apparently appeared on eBay. I'm not sure that Idle Hands actually has them, but they have the pictures of them. It's where I saw them. Sounds like Jedi Temple Archive has also shown them too. Somebody claims they found them at a Walmart.
Wow, I believe it.
Idle Hands has a ton of the images up.
I was at the local Walmart near where you live, Jerry. I get to that part of town rarely, but I was over there, and they had already cleared out everything for The Force Awakens, and they had new merchandise for Star Wars, but it wasn't Force Awakens, and they had the big sign for Force Friday. So
nice.
They're definitely gearing up at our local Walmart. But one thing that I saw on a few of the pictures that were released, and I actually saw a little bit in our Walmart, were the micro machines.
Wait, you saw the micro machines?
No, I saw the micro machines of the Ghost, the Millennium Falcon. There are no Force Awakens ships.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, so but these are brand new micro machines.
That was my favorite Star Wars collectible from like all throughout the 90s. I still have all my originals, and I actually have most everything they released.
Yeah, I almost picked up a Ghost.
Oh my gosh, I need to go to Walmart tonight then.
Yeah, I mean, they're really, really cool, and I, like you, had a ton of those micro machines in the 90s. And they're bringing them back. They're bringing them back for older ships, and from photos that I've seen online, one of which I tweeted out the other morning, their Force Awakens ships will also have micro machines. This is, maybe I just missed it in the news cycle. I had no idea that these were coming back. I love these things.
Are they selling them in little packs or like of multiple ships or just
It's
individual?
one per pack, individual.
How much for one micro machine are they asking?
They didn't have a price on it. Like I looked over the box, you could tell this was like a center aisle display.
Yeah.
They had just put them out.
Huh.
Just put them out. So, and I kept kind of scrounging around to see if I could maybe find a ship that I didn't recognize. I was hoping I would run across some Force Awakens merchandise, but I've seen a Millennium Vulcan out there from the Force Awakens online. This is online. I didn't see it personally, but it was very bare bones. So maybe this is one of two versions and not the expensive one you were talking about on the last pod.
So the micro machines Millennium Falcon set, I want to say someone said it was about $40-some, maybe low 50s. And it kind of reminds me of the old Micro Machines Millennium Falcon playset. But once again, it comes with one minifigure and one vehicle. And that's a $40-some set. I mean, we're talking one Micro Machine. The basic $10 Micro Machine sets, the smallest ones used to come with one vehicle and 5 minifigures. It seems really odd for me for them to sell a minifigure set with only one figure.
And that must be the Force Awakens one, because the one I saw was the itty bitty, like a $10.
Oh yeah, this is
Vulcan.
the big. This is like it opens up into one of the planets from the new film.
Yeah, I saw that one online, and I was just like, "This is not impressive." Like the power of the Force, Millennium Vulcan blew this away. I know it's completely two completely different types of items, but still. I can't wait for Force Friday. It's going to be here before you know it. I'm still debating whether I'm going to do the midnight launch.
I hope you're not debating, because I've already got plans and everything worked out.
I'm debating. I'm still debating.
We're gonna jump in a van with some guys and go look for Kylo Ren, bro. It's gonna happen.
Let's save that for the next podcast, Jerry.
Okay.
Save that for the next one. That's a good story that we will eventually tell.
Our adventures at Force Friday.
Exactly. So we also had a leak of, and these were prototypes. These were not painted, but there were the 6-inch Star Wars black figures. Kylo Ren. We had Rey. Kylo Ren. We had Rey. We had Finn, BB-88, and a Chewbacca. And these were photographed together, unpainted. I don't know if you saw this set, Jerry.
Some of these have been floating around since last year.
Okay. So this was a new post though on rebelscum.com.
Probably further along than the original ones that we saw, but some of them have been floating around for a while.
One thing I noticed is John Boyega sculpt looked dead on. That's definitely going to be a hot figure, I think. I don't think that'll be one that's peg warming. I bet him and probably Kylo Ren will be the two toughest to find, and meanwhile we'll see that Chewbacca peg warming or something like that.
I don't know. Chewbacca's pretty he's pretty popular.
I just still go into my Toys R Us right near me, Jerry, and they have that Han Solo figure and Slave Leia, and that's all they have. They have like 30 of those, and nothing else.
They over-ordered those early waves, and Hasbro just kept packaging them and sending them out and out and out. But
I'll tell you what they had, though, Jerry. They had the Jabba the Hutt marked down to $20 on clearance.
Yeah, people just didn't want to pay that after knowing that the Comic-Con version came with, the pipe and everything that makes Jabba the Hutt, kind of an interesting figure.
And the land speeder was only $20 as well.
The speeder bike, you mean?
Yeah, sorry. Not the land speeder, not the one he trades at Mos Eisley. I meant the land speeder from Return of the Jedi.
The speeder bike is one of the nice Black Series things they've put out, though. It's a shame that that's sitting there because it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. I debated really picking it up, but tried not to pull the trigger on that one. But we're going to have plenty more Star Wars to talk over the coming months. Let's get into a Sideshow that was put up for pre-order, a piece, another premium format. Sideshow's horror premium formats tend to sell out pretty quick and to be very valuable on the aftermarket. And over the next couple months, they have a Pinhead coming out. They have a Freddy coming out, which we haven't seen yet, but it's been announced. But they fully revealed and put up for pre-order their Jason Voorhees figure, which has alternate head sculpts that you can swap out. Has a very nice base that has heads of victims. That's the base. And it says Camp Crystal Lake on it. And I think it's up for pre-order around $450, $460. I don't know if you've seen this one yet or not, Jerry.
Yeah, $469. I'm looking at it. It's pretty cool. I like that he's got the swappable hands as well. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and it is. I'm glad they're going back to the well, so to speak, because the last Jason they did was for Freddy versus Jason, and that figure is incredibly expensive on the aftermarket right now. Yeah. Exactly, Jerry.
I like that he comes with a harpoon gun. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, man, but I'm telling you, these premium formats, they were usually about $380 to $400, $425. They're creeping up toward that $500 mark quick, Jerry.
They definitely are. Now, he's going to be pretty big though. I mean, he's larger than a normal person, so
yeah, and
he's about 22 inches tall, so
it's going to sell out. Hardcore horror collectors, Friday the 13th collectors are going to eat this up. I wish they would there's two things I would like them to do. I want to see them do a Ghostface premium format, and I would like to see them do a Michael Myers premium format. Now, the Ghostface, you may thinking, isn't that kind of bland, Brad? But if you look at the Scream films, the first three films, I can't remember off the top of my head if this is the case in the fourth one. The suit the killer wears, that cloak, has almost a metallic sheen to it that no Halloween costumes and no figures have really captured. So I would love for Sideshow to capture that kind of sheen and give us like a definitive Ghostface. But I don't know if the Weinsteins would allow that. And people's been begging for Michael Myers premium format since Sideshow's been around. They've done Ash and Jason and Freddy and everybody. That's really the big slasher they haven't done. So we'll see if that ever happens. Maybe Dimension just don't want that to be the case.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows with these things? All right, there were some brand new 1/6 scale TMNT figures revealed. These are prototypes from threezero, who's been getting their name out there, doing some decent figures in the 1/6 scale. And they were actually, the prototypes were given to Kevin Eastman, and he did a little bit of a photo shoot and put these out on the internet. And Jerry, I don't know if you had the opportunity to look at these, but I think they're unique takes on the characters. They don't seem to be modeling themselves from the films or a certain incarnation of the TV show or the comics. They seem to be artistic interpretation of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I think I dig that a little bit. I don't know if I myself would pick it up, but it will be interesting to see how these do as opposed to, say, the Mondo 1/6 scale TMNT figures.
Yeah, I'm looking at them. They're different. I mean, they're not bad, but I don't know. They are a bit unusual.
They are, and some of the belt choices are a bit odd.
I really would want to see them in color to get an idea of, how the characters actually look.
Absolutely. I will say, though, and this brings me up to something that I forgot to mention on last podcast when we did our San Diego Comic-Con countdown. I've been thinking about it, and I've been looking at the pics. And if I could go back and retcon that list, Jerry, I think I would have put the Mondo TMNT figures on there if they would have had a price point, because they have swappable head sculpts that where you can have the red bandanas or you can have the colored bandanas. And to add to that, the eyes are those classic like white eyes. So they're articulated 1/6 scale high-end versions almost of those toys we had as a kid, Jerry. And those are very cool.
I will give you permission to go back and put those on your list.
Okay, I think if I had my choice, if I had to spend a little bit of money on either the threezero turtle line or the Mondo turtle line, just based on what we know now, I would pick the Mondo line for sure. But we saw those painted, so I don't know if that's really fair to make that comparison. And
yeah,
Mondo still has to prove it to me in the collecting department. All right, Jerry, let's move on to something that's near and dear to your heart as we get into our last news topic. They announced that PowerCon tickets are going on sale. They're going to go on sale August 15th at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And this show is going to be in Los Angeles, California. Jerry, I know you've talked about PowerCon. It's the Masters of the Universe convention. I'm glad that it's happening. I don't know where at in LA this is. I don't know if LA has a convention center or where they're holding it exactly. But the prices full weekend, it costs you $40. Saturday $25, Sunday $25. Or you can get the Power Pass. This includes a full weekend pass, a Power Pass badge, all ticket pre-order incentive items, a t-shirt, front row panel seating, VIP access to the green room. There's only going to be 10 of those passes sold, Jerry. Speaking of limited edition, that's a bit insane there.
Yeah, I don't know how big of a crowd PowerCon draws. I've heard different numbers. The common one I've heard is around 100. I'm not sure how accurate that is or not.
That's small. Wow.
PowerCon's a pretty small convention. Remember, it didn't actually even happen last year. After 3 years, they tried to move it to New York so it'd have they could be on the East Coast for once, and it just didn't happen, and so they had to cancel the convention.
Interesting here, though. It says, and I'm reading this from the Fwoosh.com, very good toy site. They're saying that you can buy a non-attendee, access pass for $25. So you buy this pass, and I guess it gives you the right to buy any exclusives from the con.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned this a little bit last time, maybe. PowerCon managed to get 3 exclusives for next year for PowerCon. They're all basically repaints of Masters of the Universe Classics figures we already have. There's a green Granomir, a red Beastman from the mini comics, and a repaint of CobraCon that was called CamoCon. But they were only going to be selling them at the convention. Available through them. They weren't going to be sold on Mattel's own Matty Collector site. So what you can do after the attendees buy theirs 3 hours later, you can purchase a non-attendee pass, and then you have the opportunity to buy those figures as well while supplies last.
And that's just paying for a pass to pay more and buy other figures, which a few of these are repaints, aren't they?
They're all repaints.
They're all repaints. Are you gonna do that or no?
I was really up in the air about it because I've been pretty much a Masters of the Universe Classics completist.
Yeah.
But the figures themselves are really expensive. They're about $45 for they're $45 for the 2 standard figures. The larger figure is $100, but he's a really large figure. factoring in shipping, it'd be closer to $250, $260.
Yeah, with that pass, especially.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's about the cost of the whole yearly subscription this year. So I'm gonna pass.
That's not worth it for repaints. If it was something brand new, I could see that to kind of subsidize the price that they went into producing new figures. But
They're
not
supposed
for
to be
repaints.
very limited. They're supposed to be very limited. So.
Okay, well maybe they'll be expensive on the scalping market, and that
absolutely. I mean that's absolutely where a lot of them will end up, because people who attend can buy 3 figures. So I have a feeling these are going to be the scalper's delight here.
Yeah, exactly. Which brings
there's a little more.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there's 2 other Masters of the Universe news that are pretty big that have been going on.
Me.
The first one yesterday. So the subscription for 2016, there's going to be 2 separate subscriptions that we know of. They haven't given any real details on the second one yet, but it's going to be based on the Filmation cartoon. But the main subscription for next year, the Collector's Choice, did go through. Yesterday, they announced that it did go through. It will be happening. So that subscription is going. The second issue is a little bit more contentious. Last year, when they were selling the subscriptions, they talked about that one of the characters that came in this year's subscription, King Hiss, was supposed to come with an alternate body. He was supposed to come with his torso, because the original figure you could remove basically like a shell over his body, and he was made of snakes underneath. He was supposed to come. That piece did not come with King Hiss and He-Man in a 2-pack this year. They said he would come further down the line. Anyways, at Comic-Con, at the panel, fans asked, where is this piece? We haven't seen it. We haven't heard anything about it. And they kind of said, oh, it's coming. A couple days later, they said, you know what? We're actually not including that piece in the subscription anymore. You have to buy it as a separate figure. So
that sounds about right from them. From the panel.
Even with a new team and them talking about transparency, it definitely feels like they claim it didn't cost out. They claim it was done by the former team, but I think everybody thought this. I mean, everybody pretty much thought this was coming. We were told it was coming with our subscription that we were paying for, and now it's an extra, $26, $27 figure plus shipping that we have to buy in November if we want to complete a figure released earlier in the year. So there's been a couple hits on Masters of the Universe Classics lately that have made a lot of fans not so thrilled.
Yeah,
the PowerCon exclusives have kind of gotten a lot of people a little bit flustered. This has made a lot of folks mad with the King Hiss torso, and they actually forgot or just neglected to do an early access sale for subscribers for Mattel's San Diego Comic-Con exclusives, which they said was going to be one of the benefits for the subscription that we all bought this year. So
you're telling me Mattel is off message when it comes to their product? I can't imagine that, Jerry. Okay, I really can't.
It's been a little frustrating. So
if nothing else, that provides us with a good transition to our main topic.
Beautiful transition.
Which is exclusivity and limited editions in collecting. This is a topic that Jerry and I kind of stumbled up on, kind of something we wanted to talk about ever since, and we addressed this on the last podcast. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but that madness that happened at the Hasbro booth at San Diego Comic-Con, where you had people stampeding the booth to get the very first Force Awakens figure that was an exclusive First Order Stormtrooper to San Diego Comic-Con. We know there's going to be other Stormtrooper figures. It's just that they wanted to be the first. And I'm sure there's maybe something a little different that will set this San Diego version apart. from other versions. So, Jerry, let's talk about this. Just overall, what are your thoughts on exclusives, first of all, and then limited editions? Because they are two different things.
Yeah. Okay, so I've kind of broken it down into there are 4 different types of exclusives that I think about.
All right.
So the original version is, and I think this is the oldest version that we look at, is there are store exclusives.
Yeah.
Store exclusives served a real purpose. A retailer who sold a lot of product would ask for something special that would drive customers to their store.
Like the molten Darth Vader from episode 3 at Target.
Yeah, that was at Target. And this has been going on, I guarantee, since, probably the 50s or 60s. Places like JCPenney's, their catalog and stuff, would have exclusive toys.
I miss those catalogs, man. My grandmother would get them, and I would sit there and look through them at Christmas time and circle it with a pen. I want this, this, and that. God, I miss those.
Those catalogs.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, those catalogs are good stuff. So store exclusives have been around for a long time. Store exclusives serve a purpose. They get people to come to that store and shop. That's kind of the idea. And we see that with a lot of other stuff. A lot of products, have an exclusive version to some store or something. So the second kind of exclusive is the convention exclusive. That's the one that's at a convention that really is intended to kind of show off the product line to people. I mean, think about it. Lots of news outlets that don't cover toys do kind of cover San Diego Comic-Con exclusives.
Absolutely.
It's its own thing now. People are interested. So when somebody like Funko does that, Jaws eating Quint, or when there's some kind of exclusive Stormtrooper or First Order Stormtrooper from Hasbro, that gets covered in a lot of other places where the typical toys don't. So there's kind of almost an advertising or a publicity for the line that happens with those exclusives. The third kind of exclusive is the incentive. So think about that like as a kid when you'd have something that was, buy 5 figures and send in the proof of purchase and, get your free Cobra Commander figure. Or think about the old Frosted Flakes Han Solo in Stormtrooper gear.
Yeah.
Which was the first Star Wars figure I ever ordered away for. Han Solo and Stormtrooper gear on some Frosted Flakes. The last one are figures that are intentionally limited. And this is kind of the weird one that I think really does frustrate people. Is when companies started doing chase figures. They call them chase figures back in the mid to late 90s. Chase figures got to be a big deal. You would do a figure that you would intentionally make limited because that would keep collectors coming to the store.
I'm torn on this because I think it's bullcrap, but then again, one of my favorite things ever is the hunt. Like me and you have some good memories looking for a certain Marvel Legend or something like that, going from Kmart to Toys R Us to Target to Walmart. And then when you find it on that last visit, it's like unlocking an achievement or a trophy on a gaming system.
I can understand. Like, I enjoy going out and looking for figures and browsing and seeing what's out there. But one of the issues is when the company intentionally does it and says, we're going to make this hard to get. It's already tough to find a lot of action figures. Stores already have poor distribution. We know there are collectors or scalpers who go and wait and know people in the back of a store, and they know their dealers too, and they get those figures before they even hit the shelves. We know that some stores just don't stock a lot of the figure. They order them one time and again. So really what happens is these things just end up costing people who enjoy the line, who enjoy the characters, just ends up costing them more money that the company doesn't really see, but a middleman sees that money.
And
So,
the bad thing, the real bad thing about that is oftentimes the companies like Hasbro, for example, are not transparent that this is a limited figure. My example of this is they are oftentimes, this is not always the case, and this is, call it what it is, this is speculation what I'm saying here. But when Avengers came out, the first one, back in 2012, I saw the Hawkeye Avengers one time. I bought it when I saw it, but one time. You can't tell me that was not somehow that was limited in some form or fashion.
well, that line was exclusive to Walmart.
Okay. Well, I went into a lot of Walmarts looking for it.
Yeah. So think about it. I mean, once again, Walmart. I mean, Walmart doesn't always distribute action figures that well. Sometimes my Walmart has just empty shelves most of the time. They sell through stuff and just leave it empty. And so they don't always restock.
Yeah.
Toys are definitely one of the areas that a lot of stores just don't pay that much attention to. I mean, it's one of the areas of the least incentive to keep it stocked well.
Yeah, I guess you kind of got to prioritize. The groceries got to kind of come first, and I'm sure
Groceries,
Blu-rays
I
and
mean,
DVDs
electronics, but toys tend to sit a lot. What to me is frustrating is a lot of these exclusives, they were really, let me think of the right way to say this. They were a part of going to retail and buying figures. The Chase exclusives or Chase variants, a figure that the company makes intentionally limited. Think about in the old Playmate Star Trek line, they had the 1701 series where there were only 1,701 of these figures released. That's a really small release.
Yeah, we're talking about a worldwide release.
Yeah. So the idea was that as a collector, you would go to the store, you wouldn't find what you were looking for, you wouldn't find that limited figure, but guess what? You'd probably buy something else. You wouldn't want to come home empty-handed. So Chase figures served a purpose of keeping you going to the store so you had access to merchandise, so that you might buy something else. Well, one of the odd things is over the past couple years, Masters of the Universe Classics has started doing a Chase figure on their website. It appears and disappears randomly.
Oh my God. That is ridiculous.
This was already a line where you subscribed up front saying you wanted to buy a year's worth of product that you didn't see. And now here was an extra figure that if you wanted it, you had to be checking their website randomly, but you also had to pay a shipping cost as well. So you're having to pay the shipping cost that you couldn't really, pad it by buying more stuff or, combine it with anything. A Chase variant doesn't make sense there anymore. It made sense back in the day. It doesn't make sense anymore. And it was just kind of an odd thing of, well, somebody thought this was fun, but I don't know. I don't think a lot of collectors think exclusives are that fun when they're intentionally limited.
I'm so torn on this topic overall because a lot of the stuff that I collect it's not exclusives, but it's limited editions. Most of my Mondo posters are 400 or less made. Maybe the Avengers one was the most at 750. That TMNT poster was 45 of those were printed. Yeah. So I feel proud that I'm one of the only 45 people who have those. I really do. Like I'm it's not that I want to deprive anybody from having it. It's unique that I'm one of the lucky few. That being said, I wish everybody could own that poster who wanted it, and I had to pay a pretty penny extra to get that poster because it was limited. So it's kind of I guess I'm trying to be glass half full here.
Yeah.
On one hand, I hate it for the people that may have wanted that poster, because I've been on the other end of that many times where I really wanted a limited edition and I just couldn't get my hands on it. So I hate that for those people.
Would you like the poster any less if other people had access to the poster? Do you think you'd like the poster any less?
I would not like the poster any less, but I think that there's some pride as a collector in having that census limited. For example, your friends come over who maybe you hadn't seen in a while. I know you got a friend coming into town here shortly this weekend, and I'm sure you're going to show him the new stuff you picked up. And when you do that walk around, it doesn't make it any less impressive to that person. They see the poster, they see the figure, and it is what it is, right? But when you say, this is one of only 45, a lot of people are like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Now, I'll say most of the people that would say that are not collectors. They're people who are just admiring from afar and would never buy any of this stuff. So you see that the companies who do this, whether it's Mondo or whoever, are not echoing sentiments to their base. I agree that from a collector's point of view, I hate it. But it is a problem that I have to deal with, specifically the things that I collect. So I'm just trying to find the benefit of that, if that makes any sense. I'm sorry, that may be a little bit of a convoluted way of answering that question, but...
So... One thing to me, though, that I think is interesting is, as collectors, why are we artificially making things rare? It's like...
Well, collectors aren't doing that. That's the people who produce the product, right?
Right, but I can argue that, okay, maybe for a large company when something is truly rare, but, I mean, you have to admit, when you have small artist-driven companies... and you're making exclusives, I mean, those folks are involved with those properties, and they're involved in the collector's market in a more intimate way than some mass market company who's making toys for kids that collectors happen to like. It makes me wonder, so what do we actually like about collecting? And I think it's a question to ask ourselves. Do we just like having things that other people don't have? Do we really like the idea of excluding people, or do we actually enjoy the things we own? Because, I mean, any company could go out and say, hey, we're going to make 4 of this item. It's really rare. And that has a lot different meaning to it than an item somebody has collected from the 60s or 70s or even the 50s that is truly rare because nobody thought to keep it around. Not many exist. It's almost like as collectors, we just like jerking ourselves off and, and just saying, hey, this is really rare in and of its, we're making it rare.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying, that we are part of the problem as collectors, because what I've just said is playing right into the company's hands, if you will.
Yeah.
All right.
Think about if any other industry ran the way that as collectors we say collecting runs. Think about if any food company said, hey, we're only making so many bottles of soda. Or if some toiletry company said, we're only making this many sticks of deodorant and you can only buy it at this store and you can only buy, it for this limited period of time. Or some movie that's like, hey, we're only selling, 500 tickets to this movie. We're not talking a particular theater. We're talking you cannot watch this movie. It would be crazy. We would laugh at it. But as collectors, I feel like we've bought into it. And we just love the idea of rarity. And to me, that's kind of what killed the comic industry in the early 90s, was this whole idea of, we have to get things. We want them just because they're rare or limited edition. And people didn't really care about the stuff. And so when I hear collectors going on and on about how they love rarity and exclusives and things, it makes me wonder, do you really care about what you're collecting? Do you really like those items? Or do you just like the idea of having something that nobody else has?
I like the items, because if I didn't, and I like the items and the properties they represent, because it represents my love for those properties.
Absolutely.
If that wasn't the case, then I'd be a much richer man. I mean, because...
No, I hear you there.
I mean, think of the money that I would have saved if these posters were readily available. So
Yeah.
I think you have to, from a production standpoint, you have to balance it out, because there are people who like genuinely love exclusives and limited editions. All right, I can take it or leave it. If I had my way, that wouldn't be the case. We wouldn't exclude or limit anybody. But the world we live in, the collecting world we live in, people do like those things. So you have to think, how can we, from a production standpoint, have our cake and eat it too? And that's why I've always been a big fan of timed editions. Mondo, once a year, sometimes twice, but usually only once a year, they have an exclusive print from one of their top-notch artists. It's exclusive to them, but instead of being a certain number, it used to be, it was 24 hours with The Dark Knight Rises. Then Man of Steel, it was a 48 hours. And then this year with Mad Max, they just did an exclusive Ken Taylor Mad Max awesome poster. Like, these are not, your crappy tier Mondo artists. These are God tier Mondo artists doing these timed editions. And it gives everybody a chance to own one of their posters. And I'm a big fan of that. It's going up to 72 hours. My problem with that is, what if I don't like Mad Max? Like, what if I really love Jurassic World?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that excludes people based on a love of property. So I think that you need to, if you're going to provide timed editions for one thing, you have to do it for something else. So if you're releasing something that is a limited edition, then alongside of it, release a companion piece that's a timed edition. That way, if Avengers Infinity War comes out, then when that film comes out, they do two posters. One is the 500, limited edition of 500. The other one is timed edition for, just say, a week or so. And I'm a fan of timed editions. I really am, because it gives you that way of having some rarity, but not to the point to where you feel like everybody was excluded.
Well, that's a nice way to actually base it on that this is what the market can take. If you have 72 hours and say, okay, if you want that poster, if you want that poster, when that happens, you have the chance to purchase it. And that makes sense. It gives folks a chance to buy it, and it lets the company know how many they're going to sell. And it'd be interesting to see those numbers, because it's kind of making me wonder. I mean,
for The Dark Knight Rises, they sold 10,000 of them at $40 a piece.
So if you can sell 10,000 of a poster, why sell 40 of a poster? If you can sell 10,000, I mean, it's a legitimate question.
The question is, if you print unlimited, do you sell 10,000?
Yeah.
Are there some people who are just buying it because it's timed, limited time edition?
But surely after a couple sales, a couple times, you would have a good idea. I mean, most companies can judge how much product they need to put out. Most companies can figure that out.
And the big thing is, that really leads us into the subtopic here of scalping. eBay has become known on many forums as Evil Bay. Almost default call it Evil Bay now.
I've heard it called Michael eBay.
Michael eBay. That's a good one. But it's become a place, eBay, and forums is something I really don't have a problem with. Collectors working with collectors to get each other what they want. That often tends to be a very more decent way to do transactions if you trust the person you're dealing with. But the majority of people who are getting the money from these Force Awakens figures are scalpers on eBay. I mean, they sold those for like 25, 30 a pop. And I've saw those things, as I said last pod, sell for 100. And who does that benefit? It doesn't benefit the collector. It doesn't benefit Hasbro. It's a bit ridiculous.
That's why I really hope in the future. And I know I have made lots of jokes, and I have definitely picked on Mattel a good bit during this podcast. But that's why I am such a huge fan of what Mattel does with Masters of the Universe. Overall, for that line, there is an open window. You can go in there during that window for the year. You can decide, yes, I want to buy these figures, or no, I don't. And you have that option. There doesn't have to be scalping if you want to buy the figure. You buy it through the company. I know we've talked about pre-ordering before. We've mentioned we want to talk about pre-ordering. That's why I love companies that do a pre-order system. You know, figure out how many you can sell instead of throwing them out there and, you know, feeding the scalper market. Sell it directly. You know, sell it directly from the producer, the manufacturer, to the collector, and leave out the middle market as much as possible.
Yeah, and pre-ordering kind of brings up a whole nother topic, because you have places like Big Bad that you put no money down. Then you have places like Sideshow that do non-refundable deposits, and they do payment plans and things of that nature. So pre-ordering, I love it. I'm all for it. I love freedom in pre-ordering. I think I should be able to cancel a pre-order without being penalized. That's my opinion. On one end of the spectrum, I understand where somebody like Sideshow's coming from. When, hey, you said you were going to give us this amount of money. We thought we would have this amount of money coming in this month, but now we're not, so you're canceling. So we still have to get something from you.
Yeah.
So I understand both ways. I definitely prefer Big Bad model.
That's I would say 95%, 99% of my pre-ordering is done through Big Bad.
Yeah,
so
that's the best place
they're
to
convenient.
go.
They're trustworthy. When they change prices, they let you know. When product changes, they let you know. Now, I don't have a problem prepaying for things. I mean, I like using Kickstarter. And in a sense, with most Kickstarter projects these days, you're really pre-ordering things.
Yeah.
At least in the collecting world, you're pre-ordering stuff. And I have no problem. And overall, like, I enjoy Comic-Con exclusives. There are some companies that I had no problem getting their Comic-Con exclusives. Funko, their Comic-Con exclusives are usually easy to get. They make them readily available. NECA's another company. I find their exclusives are pretty easy to get. Mattel doesn't do a bad job with their exclusives most of the time either. They do something cool, something neat. You can have access to them. Store exclusives can be fun. Most stores want to stock those things. But when things are intentionally limited, it just seems like a really odd way of doing business, because I don't think we would put up with it in any other market or industry. And to me, it encourages this mindset of collecting that really seems to be different than what you talk about, Brad, with most collectors. We buy things because we like them. We buy things because we love the characters. We are nostalgic about them. We enjoy the way they look. And when we go talking about, rarity and limited editions, sometimes it kind of brings up this ugly side once again, where maybe somebody would be better off collecting antiques than they are collecting, properties that are nostalgic and mean something to people.
I experienced this firsthand this week. Some people, though, I got a PlayStation 4 this week because my brother got one, and we play a lot of Madden, but that's not the point of this story. The point is that I wanted to get the Batman Arkham Knight edition, not the bundle. I ended up getting the bundle that came with Arkham Knight. I wanted the silver PS4, which retailed for $450, and I would definitely be willing to pay that for it. But everywhere is sold out because Sony limited the numbers. And this game released in June. I mean, it's not like this game is 5 years, 3 years, even a year old. It's a relatively new game. A lot of people will probably be getting this game for Christmas this year. This is a AAA title that a lot of people are going to want. I go on eBay, they're 500 plus. I hate that I can't own that. I love Batman. I love the Arkham series. I would love to display that proudly as a Batman fan, but I'll never own it because, I mean, I realistically, I could have afforded it, but I didn't need to pay that for it.
Mm-hmm. But you probably could have pre-ordered that if you had wanted to and had a long period to pre-order it.
Yeah, I probably could have. You're right. If
you had wanted it back when they were first announcing it, you would have had no problem getting a hold of one.
Yeah, that's true. That's a fair argument, but I guess I was just on the wrong end of that. But I'm not losing any sleep over it. It would have been nice to have. And that kind of what I wanted to do before we wrap things up is talk about these, because we have a lot of people who come to geekswithwives.com for gaming. We have a great games podcast. And talk about video game collector's editions. Not so much consoles like I was talking about, but for example, the ones that come with the statue or whatnot. It seems now for every game, the normal going rate $60, but for every $60 game, there's $100 collector's edition that you could get also. So Jerry, I know they're doing one for Metal Gear 5 here coming up that a lot of people are really excited about. Do you ever go down this path of getting these collector's editions for games?
There have been very few that I have purchased the collector's edition for. I think the last one that I bought was the Tomb Raider collector's edition.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because it came with that Play Arts Kai Lara Croft figure, and I have a big Lara Croft collection. You know, not huge, but I have a number of the action figures and stuff. And I thought it was really cool. I like Play Arts Kai stuff, and the stuff that came with it seemed pretty neat, so I did pick it up. I've bought a couple of them. I've watched the prices climb on these over time. That they used to be like, you know, this version was $70 because it had a metal case, or this version was $80 because it came with a t-shirt, and they've really jumped up on these. But, I mean, there's a market. If you want them, you can pre-order them sometimes a year in advance of when they come out. So, like I said, there definitely seems to be a market for them. And it's just one of those things that it has a lot of kind of, you know, interesting, bizarre little things in it for collectors. So they're not my thing most of the time, but every now and then I'll see one that I want to have. I think I just don't buy that many video games these days.
Yeah, I don't either, because I don't have much time to really invest in gaming like I did back in high school and college. But I mean, if there's a game I really want to play, I'm going to find some way to play it, whether that's staying up late, going sleep deprived, or whatever. But it's just, I always think when I see these things and they're priced at $100, in some cases, some collector's editions have got to like $150. I'm like, I could buy 2 games. Like, it's just not, it's not a big deal for me personally. But the good thing is, it seems after talking this through that these collector's editions, limited editions, exclusives are not a big problem in the gaming world, which is good because that seems to be the exception rather than the rule when it comes to collecting. It seems we really have a problem with limited edition and exclusives. Jerry, mine is timed editions. Is there any solution besides that you can think that we need to put into practice with this problem?
I would really love my 2 things to put into practice are I would really love to see more companies sell things themselves or use like a reseller that doesn't mark things up like crazy. The way Mattel has done it, I know people don't necessarily like having to subscribe for a whole year of product, but things like that are a great way. Or like I said earlier, when I could buy my figures right through Super 7 rather than having to pick them up off eBay. When they sell right through the company, that's a great way to do it. Do the direct market.
The problem is, though, is that cuts out the retailer, and that the retailers rely on that. They're just going to quit carrying that product, and we don't want that.
Well, it depends. A lot of the product we collect, retailers don't carry it anyway.
That's true.
But at the same time, once again, I think it's a way to solve this problem. There are many collectible lines. I mean, think about it. Masters of the Universe Classics is a line that's going on its 7th or 8th year at this point, and it's always only been sold through one website, through Mattel's own website. Nobody else has carried it. G.I. Joe now, I mean, you can buy some G.I. Joe stuff through Toys R Us and other places, but they have a collector's club that exclusively sells their product. People can pre-order and know what they're getting and end up, buying it right there, not having to play games with somebody. It's a little more expensive, but you're getting it. You're not having to search stores or feed the scalpers, so to say. I think it's the future. And 3D printing is gonna even change things a bit further, because we're gonna see at some point people being able to print their own collectibles.
Well, I can't wait for that day. That's for sure. Just to see what people would print, and I know it happens already. But
I have a buddy that just got a 3D printer, and he's been printing his own pieces for all these different board games he plays. And it's amazing to see the stuff he prints and makes right in his living room.
But that's a limited option, because even if you can't afford it, I mean, artistically, you need a little skill there too.
Well, but there are. He just downloaded the files.
Oh wow! Okay, so he's not.
People upload the files, and I mean that's going to change collecting like crazy. Hasbro has already talked about exploring that option in the future, where you basically build your file and download your toy. That's great.
What about paint though? You still have to paint. Paint can make or break a figure.
Yeah, no, you're right. There are some limitations there, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future when things continue to improve there. So, just something odd to think about.
My thing is, I guess we don't need to be part of the problem. I say that as somebody who's bought so many posters and figures and sold stuff, even on Evil Bay. I don't know if we need to kind of revel in the fact that it's exclusive or it's limited. If that's the case, you like that, that's fine if that's your thing. But if you continue to support it, it's going to continue to happen. And I think we're just kind of stuck on the wheel, so to speak, here for a little bit. We'll see if people burn out on this like they did in the 90s comic bubble. Collecting's bigger than it's ever been because these geek properties are bigger than they've ever been.
And think about it. How many truly collectible action figure lines are available these days at Walmart, Target, Kmart, and places like that?
Not many.
How many of those lines would you say? Remember back in the 90s, McFarlane had multiple lines. We saw those things everywhere. And that part of the market kind of exploded. It was tough to get things. People couldn't always find everything. Stores didn't stock stuff. So now it's moved online, and we have a chance to kind of solve a lot of the problems of the past. We're collecting.
It's going to be an interesting story, and I think this probably will be a topic we explore again, like maybe in a year's time, just to see if anything has changed. But I think that's kind of going to tick us down to the end of this podcast. Jerry, is there anything you want to say about exclusivity or limited editions before I close that topic out?
I would love to hear back from some folks. So if you listen to this podcast, let us know your thoughts on it. I mean, does does something being exclusive or limited, does that appeal to you? Does it aggravate you? Have you ever stopped collecting a line because there were too many exclusives? Let us know. We're curious to hear your thoughts as well. We're just two people talking to each other, and we'd love to have your voice as part of the conversation.
Yeah, email me, brad.bell@geekswithwives.com. Let me know your thoughts on that. And you can always tweet me at the real Brad Bell, always on the Twitter sphere. But Jerry, let's go ahead and wrap up like we always do with our collecting goals for the next month or over the course of the next month. Jerry, I have two. All right.
Okay.
My number one is, this is debatable. It may come in August. It may come at the end of September. I don't know if I'll have it by the time we do the next pod. But I have the DC Collectibles Barry Allen Flash statue, 1/6 scale statue coming from Big Bad. I think it'll be a nice compliment to my Arrow statue. Big Bad has it still available for pre-order, bigbadtoystore.com. for $105, which is a deal considering this figure retails for $130. So I'm really looking forward to that possibly arriving. You just never know. Sometimes it could come earlier or sooner or later. You just don't know a lot of times with DC collectible stuff. Now, my last goal is I really don't want to buy anything on Force Friday. I know that I want a Hot Toys Kylo Ren. I have $80 left in rewards points at sideshowtoy.com. I want that to be my next hot toy. I want to use those reward points toward a Kylo Ren and go from there. But I know we're going to get in there at midnight. You're going to have a buggy full, and you're going to tempt me to buy something. So if I get something, I hope I keep it to one or so Black Series 6-inch figures.
Or so.
One or so. So no more than two. That's what the so means. So my other goal is not to spend too much money on Force Friday. Jerry, what are your goals over the next month?
Over the next month. Well, we got a couple new shelves in our living room. So I got some of the old shelves in my hobby room and my study. So I'm rearranging my Batgirl collection around my premium format. I'm doing some cleaning up and stuff in my hobby room. So it's to make my collection look really nice, to have everything well organized. And my other goal, I guess it's a collecting goal. So starting September 1st on Action Figure Barbecue, we start Hokey Halloween Horror Year 3.
Which is awesome. You have to check this out on Jerry's site, actionfigurebarbecue.com.
From September 1st until October 31st, and probably a week after, there's multiple horror things going on a day. But my favorite thing is 31 Days of Toy Terror. It's an action figure review of at least one horror-themed figure every day in October. I've already started working on it, so I'm nicely ahead. I've given myself a lot of room this year, so I've been in a real spooky mood writing these reviews. Some stuff's older stuff, some stuff's new stuff. You never know what you're going to expect or what you're going to find when you come on there. And it's to make sure that this is the best Halloween ever for Hokey Halloween Horror Year 3.
Jerry, a few years ago when we did our previous site together, I don't know if this was a collecting thing. I don't think it was. But you posted like your goals for the Halloween season. Like it was like go to a haunted house.
Yeah, my Halloween checklist. Yeah, that'll be back this year.
Okay, so you're going to post that like sometime at the beginning of September, right?
Yeah, 'cause I did a contest for it that year, and for the people that I think for somebody who did the most stuff on the list, I sent them like a prize package or something.
Yeah, you did. I remember that. Hey, make sure you share that out to me, and I will tweet out that checklist because I look forward to that every year. But if you're ready to get in the Halloween spirit, actionfigurebarbecue.com is the place to go. Jerry, I'm going to go ahead and announce our next topic.
Let's go for it.
Next topic for the month of September is Force Friday. And Force Friday and Tales of Wookie Hookie. So basically, we will recount our Force Friday experience, our experience from that first weekend of the Force Awakens figures being out. We'll give our impressions of those figures. And then we'll get into a fun part of the podcast. This is the part I'm looking forward to, where next month we will, and Jerry's got some good ones. I don't have as many good ones, but Jerry had some really good stories of just adventures in Star Wars collecting, in particular midnight figure releases.
Heck yeah.
So we're looking forward to that. Let us know if you're looking forward to participating in Force Friday. So, for episode 3 of the Collection Agency, Jerry Reed, I think that's going to wrap us up. Where can the good people find more of you, Jerry Reed?
Well, you can find more of me on actionfigurebarbecue.com. That's actionfigurebarbecue, BARBECUE.com.
Yeah, not the lazy way of saying barbecue. So check that out. Check out
The real way.
Yeah, the real way. Check out Hookie Halloween Horror on there. I can't wait to do some reading over there.
And I'm serving up reviews hot and fresh, usually every weekday.
Yeah, so check that out. As for me, you can find me at geekswithwives.com. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, and now even on PlayStation Network at The Real Brad Bell, REEL, Brad Bell. So if you want to play some Madden when that comes out at the end of the month, hit me up. We'll play some Madden. I'm looking forward to that.
Do people ever think you're like really into fishing because you're the real Brad Bell?
No, I haven't gotten any tweets or messages from boating companies yet.
Okay.
So, or bait shops. So
Like trying to sell you stink bait or something?
no. So everything's pretty good on that front. So I think that's gonna wrap us up on that note, Jerry. Jerry Reed. We'll reel things back to the closing, and from the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, we are out. Keep pounding. Go Carolina Panthers.
This has been a production of the Geeks with Wives Podcast Network. Please don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes and Stitcher. Also, check out geekswithwives.com for all the latest news on video games, comics, movies, cosplay, and more.